Hey there, good morning. It's Luminara from Autism Transformed. I got my morning cup of joe here, and happy 4th of July if you're listening live. If you're catching the replay, we did this on Independence Day. Today I want to talk about what not to feed your child. First of all, I want to say our food system is so messed up, and I'm so sorry for that. We're just not eating naturally, and we're not eating healthy. And if you are in your 20s, 30s, 40s, this might be what you know as life. I'm a little older, turning 60 this year, and I grew up on, yes, we had canned and boxed food, but it was the early days of processed food. I remember when TV dinners came out, that was like such a treat, eating in aluminum trays. Anyway, my grandparents, they didn't have microwaves. They didn't have pre-prepared food ready for them to take out of the freezer. Heck, they didn't even have freezers back then. But our food is so convenient today and easy, so we can go and do other things, but it's not healthy. So what I want to say is I talk to so many parents with kids on the spectrum, and a lot of kids are picky eaters. Parents don't know what to feed their kids because they'll eat usually 5 things, and I can tell you, and you may relate to this, chicken nuggets and French fries are the top 2. A lot of people have potato chips or crisps as snacks. A lot of parents, a lot of kids will eat, the range of kind of junk food runs the gamut. It could be toast, it could be bread, it could be pizza. There's a lot of favorites, and they unfortunately contain not healthy ingredients, not clean ingredients. So I know as a parent, it's hard. You go, what do I feed my child? Well, I'm going to start with what to feed your child before we talk about what not to, because nature provides us with so many good foods. There's apples and oranges and bananas, so all the fruits, the berries. Now it's summer in the Northern Hemisphere, so peaches, plums, the stone fruits are in abundance right now, and they're so yummy. And that's fruits. And then vegetables, I know a lot of our kids won't eat vegetables. I'm curious, what was your favorite vegetable as a kid? Because my favorite vegetable was actually, I had 2. I had asparagus. I don't know how that was my favorite vegetable, and peas. So I would eat those like crazy. Of course, they came out of cans most of the time because I grew up in the Midwest, and, in the winter you ate out of cans. There's so many vegetables, and really healthy ones, and ones that you can get that you don't necessarily have to be organic. So if you can't afford organic food, I totally understand. It's so expensive. I would say go local to your farmer's market if possible, and organic if possible. But the Environmental Working Group has a cheat sheet of the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15 fruits and vegetables. So the Dirty Dozen are the most sprayed with highly pesticided, and I know right now it's usually kale, blueberries, apples, strawberries, any kind of berries, maybe not blackberries, because if you've ever picked a blackberry, they're very prickly, so I don't think a lot of bugs get on those. And then the Clean 15, I know for myself, the ones that I eat from there, asparagus, I think melons might be, and then the other one I eat a lot is eggplant. Now, that's not necessarily the taste of a child. So I know taste is a big issue. Texture can be a big issue. I know a lot of kids like that crunchy texture. And I have a sense that it has something to do either with how it sounds on their ears, so something developmentally with sound, or helping work the jaw and how, doing a sensory thing with the jaw, or maybe just how it feels inside the mouth. Those are my suspicions after talking to so many parents over the years. So what not to feed your child, and what we have an abundance of in our society, are fried foods that are fried in bad oils, like French fries and chicken nuggets. And most of the prepared foods are containing really bad oils, vegetable oil, canola oil, soy oil. These really do a number on our body in terms of every single cell of our body, and we have trillions. Every single cell has a cell membrane, which is composed of fat. And if we don't have good fats in our diet, the bad fats will get in our cell membranes, and instead of being fluid and allowing things in and out, and we need things to come inside the cells, that's how we function, then the cell membranes get stiff and things don't, the nutrients don't get in as well, and the toxins, cellular waste, doesn't get out as well. So bad fats, that's one major thing, and especially if our kids are eating French fries and chicken nuggets. I have a couple recipes for those on my website, and I will put, I think I'll put that in the link to bio. I don't think it's in there right now, but I'll give you those recipes for homemade chicken nuggets and homemade French fries, which, yes, it's more work than taking them out of a package and throwing them in the oven or the air fryer, but they're healthier, and you can make these items healthier. So chicken nuggets, French fries. These are okay to eat, but if they're highly processed and they have bad oils, they're not the best thing, and they don't provide a ton of nutrition. What we want to do is get a lot of different vitamins and minerals and what are called phytochemicals inside. The phytochemicals are the chemicals that make a red pepper red. They make the berry blue or red. They're the colorful antioxidants that our body needs, and needs to just do a lot of cellular reactions. I don't want to get too much into cell chemistry, which I love. The other thing not to eat is sugar. I mean, we have so much sugar in our food, and what I notice is that even in things that don't need sugar, that are, processed food, sugar's in them anyway. And I feel like we need to reduce the amount of sugar we give our kids. One, it makes them hyper. It messes with the blood sugar, right? If you have a lot of sugar coming in at once. Gosh, I was getting gelato the other night with my boyfriend, and I noticed kids with huge, huge ice cream, and this was like 8 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night. And to go to bed with that amount of sugar, it'll raise the blood sugar really high. And I've used a glucose monitor before, so I can see how high the blood sugar actually gets, at least for myself. And then you'll have a sugar crash. And so if your child has ever had a ton of sugar at once, maybe it's a cupcake or a piece of birthday cake, or some other sweet treat, and then they kind of have a lull in energy, and call it a sugar crash, or sugar coma is what one of my friends referred to it as. And then they yo-yo like this all day. Then after they crash, they want to have more sugar because their blood sugar's low. And if you give your kids sugar at night before bed, like my parents used to give us ice cream before bed. That was our snack before bed. I never did that with my son. I learned. Then you can have low blood sugar in the middle of the night, and that can wake up your child. How? Because if there's not enough blood sugar, if there's not enough sugar in the blood, and the brain needs sugar at night, your cortisol will replace sugar. So cortisol, your adrenals will produce cortisol, and it's also the wake-up hormone. So if your brain needs glucose, if your brain needs fuel during the night, and there's not enough blood sugar going around, and the system isn't efficient in converting something into glucose, then cortisol will be there and will wake up your child, and it's a wake-up hormone. So oftentimes kids are awake for 2-3 hours in the night. So one tip is, if your child is waking up in the night, and you look at what you give them before bed, to give them a high fat or high protein snack before bed, the body will break that down. It will take a long time to break that down, longer than if you give them something with carbohydrates, and they won't have that sugar crash. I've talked to so many parents where that really helped their kids to stay asleep. So that's one tip for you there. And so I talked about chicken nuggets, I talked about French fries, and any of these snacks that we're told are okay for our kids to eat, Takis, Doritos, Cheetos, potato chips, I can't remember them because I never have them anymore. Sometimes corn chips, all the snacky, the veggie straws that are, they make you think they're made from vegetables, and they're mostly potato starch and probably sprayed with lots of pesticides. So if you're not getting organic in your potatoes, then there's just tons of pesticides on those. That's one of the dirty dozen that the Environmental Working Group tags as highly pesticided. So all these snacks, while they're crunchy and our kids love that crunchy feel, I would recommend to use something else because the flavors, the colors, some of them have MSG, the preservatives, the oils that are used, all bad for the body. It's not fuel for our bodies. Better to have, I don't know if you know what jicama is. It's spelled Jicama. It looks like it's a brown root vegetable, and when you peel it, it's white and fleshy and crunchy and has a lot of moisture inside. You can cut these into sticks and eat them raw. You can eat raw carrot sticks, raw celery sticks, put some peanut butter on it, make some dips. So this is what to have instead of those crunchy, snacky things. I know it's easy to buy them and the processed foods, and it's harder to prepare some of the vegetables, but you can even buy cut vegetables and cut fruit in the store these days in most grocery stores. So what I encourage you to do is switch from the salty, snacky, highly processed foods that have no nutrition to more fruit, vegetable based. Snap peas are in season right now. I have some in my garden. To get the crunch flavor. The other thing I highly recommend not giving your child is conventional eggs, conventional dairy if you're doing dairy, and conventional meat. Why? Because all of that stuff is, highly, the animals that let's say the chickens that we get our eggs from, and the cow or the pig or whatever animal that we get our meat from, are fed highly toxic kind of foods. It's animal pellets, it's corn, it's genetically modified corn, and they're also shot up with lots of antibiotics, some with hormones. And so I'm going to recommend only organic or grass-fed. Even grass-fed can be a tricky label at the grocery store because it can be grass-fed and then finished for 3 months on a particular grain of corn and wheat and soy. And so what that animal eats, what gets injected in that animal's body, we also have, it gets into our bodies, and it's not always the healthiest thing. So I am a carnivore. I eat meat. I know there's studies that show that meat causes cancer. I think a lot of the studies that are out there are not controlled studies. So I believe that our bodies are made to eat meat and to use the nutrients from there, but we want it to be clean meat. We want the fat in the meat to be clean fat. We want the nutrients in there to be as clean as possible. Another thing I love, if you're not going to have meat, is bone broth, because it is extracted bone minerals, extracted bone protein, which is mostly collagen, and easy peptides, easy proteins that our body can digest. And what we get from that is we get the amino acids from those proteins. And then we have our own proteins, right? We have a muscle, we have connective tissue, and those amino acids from the bone broth help us to make our own proteins. We use proteins as enzymes inside our cells. Proteins are structural, meaning it adds structure to us. It helps build our bones. So bone broth is an amazing thing to get. I know there's commercial ones you can get. And I get boxes at Trader Joe's sometimes, or Costco, and you can certainly make your own. One of the things I love is lamb, because I feel like it's just not as toxic as the other meats. So if your family can eat lamb, I know not everyone loves it. It's got good fat. I've made lamb bone broth before, which is really yummy and fatty, and it feeds your cells. Okay, so I talked about French fries and chicken nuggets. I didn't talk about gluten and dairy. Dairy can be very constipating, especially conventional dairy. I think raw milk has its own properties that are pretty good, but what do I want to say about that? So if your child has a leaky gut and inflammation in their gut because there's bad microbes in there and dysbiosis, and pretty much all the kids I work with, all the parents, their kids have leaky gut and gut issues and inflammation. Dairy is not doing the gut a favor, and dairy can get partially digested and the proteins leak through the gut and land in the brain. So if your child loves dairy, loves cheese, loves yogurt, loves milk, and always wants to have that, that's a sign that he or she might be allergic to that, because there's a little addiction thing going on. Those small molecules can get from the milk. Casein molecules can get partially digested, leak into the gut, and act as a morphine-like substance. And what does morphine do? Makes us feel really good, makes us feel high. We don't feel any pain. And so if your child is constantly wanting dairy, check that out. And if you take it away and they kind of go berserk, that's a sign that there's an addiction, an allergy addiction there. Gluten, same thing. Gluten molecule, the wheat molecules can break down, and there's many forms of gluten because it's a long protein and it can break at any place. So if you do a gluten sensitivity test, you want to work with a lab that does more, tests more particles than fewer. But almost everyone I work with, when we do gut tests, we see gluten sensitivity. Even I have it. And we see antibodies to the gluten, which means there's leaky gut, and then that gluten can get into the brain. It's called gliadomorphine, and it can act as a morphine, similar to what I just said about dairy. So gluten and dairy are to be avoided. And what I don't want you to do is to replace those like bread or snacks or whatever with gluten-free items. Most of them have potato starch, tapioca starch, brown rice flour. They have compounds that are really high carb and not worth it as a substitution. So I would try other things. I think the cauliflower replacements, the almond replacements, if your child does not have a high oxalate issue, can be really great. And there are some good gluten-free substitutes, but not a lot, not a lot. And so I'm going to suggest you switch off the carbs and more into a fruit, vegetable, meat, high-fat based diet. So what would that look like? Eggs, if your child is not allergic. I like to make a lot of things out of eggs. You can make treats with almond flour and eggs, or if you guys don't do eggs, you can use flaxseed as an egg replacer. If you put some flax seeds with a little bit of water, it gets really goopy, kind of like eggs. So that's used in a lot of vegan recipes. Avocado is a really great one, either sliced on something and there's a couple gluten-free crackers. Let me see if I can remember the names of them, because I throw away my boxes and put them in glass jars. So avocado, anyway, you can smash it, make guacamole, and there's hummus made with chickpeas, and I love baba ganoush that's made with eggplant. That might be an acquired taste. But I say start your child really young. If you still have little ones, start young, giving lots of different flavors. There's a couple cracker brands I like. One is Panda Fleur. They have crackers made with chestnut, quinoa, and buckwheat, I want to say. And they're pretty tasteless. I like the brown rice flour. Oh, thanks for the avocado love. I like the brown rice flour crackers, rice crackers. Nuts are a great thing. If your child can handle nuts are a good crunchy, salty snack. Love cashews, almonds, walnuts, great for the brain. They have good fats. Macadamia nuts have good fats. So these are some things that you want to be giving your child. Nut butters as well. Of course, if you don't spread them on bread or gluten-free stuff, you can spread them on vegetables. I like peanut butter on apples a lot. And also, I'm here for you. So if you have a question, if you're live here and you have a question for me, go ahead and type it in and ask. I've got about 5 or so more minutes that I'll be on here. Trying to think of what else I hear from parents. Like if you want to say, hey, I'm feeding my child this, what do you think of that? Or, any question about diet and food, totally happy to answer. I think that, one of the things, since it's summer and there might be some heat waves around the country, we want to have cooling things. So I want to share that I have a recipe for homemade fruit pops that you can make on your own. And I'll try and put the link in the bio or get you that recipe. But I encourage you not to buy the store-bought ones because they will have artificial colors, flavors, lots of sugar, and not all of them do. There are healthier brands, which are more expensive, but you can make your own at home. And I love also bubbly water with just fresh squeezed lemon or lime. And you can make smoothies with frozen bananas and frozen fruit, which are a great summertime treat. Let's see, making your own ice cream is a bit of a hassle, but there are really great almond ice creams, really great coconut ice creams. So you can have substitutes for something, a sweet treat. You want to get one with the least amount of sugar, of course, and creamy and cold. What about cashews? I've started to put them in their smoothies. Excellent, Mrs. England. No, that's excellent. Cashews are really yummy and good and have good fats, so I think that's good. I'm trying to think if there's any cautions there. I don't think so. And I also use cashews, like if I do a veggie stir fry, pick the vegetables your kids like. If you're going to make a stir fry, and I'll throw cashews in there, or I'll throw other things. Now, not every kid likes their food mixed together, but one way you can mix a bunch of fruits and vegetables together is to do a soup and then blend it. So you can have like zucchini is pretty mild taste, some onion, garlic, or a few vegetables, and then blend it. I like carrots, celery, cook it enough and then blend it together. And so it's just creamy. You could throw a few potatoes in there. It gives it a little creaminess. And then use that as a soup. Now, because it's summer, hot meals may not be the best. There are cold soups like tomato soup, gazpacho, or I think there's a cold beet soup. Not sure if the kids will eat beet soup, but those are recipes worth looking up. All right. Let's see if there's anything else I want to say. Maybe if anyone wants to type into the chat like your kids' favorite snacks, and I might be able to offer a substitute. If there's something that you're giving your child and you're like, I probably shouldn't be, then let me know and I can give you my opinion, my advice. Okay, Yanni says, in your opinion, what is the best place to start for a reset? I would say go slow and take baby steps. So not sure where you're at, but if let's say you want to go gluten-free, there's a couple ways to do it. And this is just one example. You can either go cold turkey and just replace all the gluten, or not have substitutes ready. You could do that one by one. Or let's say if you have let's say your child's having gluten pancakes and you want to go to gluten-free, you can use 75% of gluten mix or whatever you're using and 25% of the gluten-free. And then the next time it's 50-50, and the next time it's only 25% of the gluten and 75% of the gluten-free, and then you go to pure gluten-free. That's one way to do gluten-free. You can do that same thing with the dairy, where you're using, let's say, cow milk and almond milk, or cow milk and macadamia nut milk, or one of the milk substitutes. I wouldn't use oat milk because, one, there's a lot of carbs in that, and two, I think oats are sprayed with glyphosate before harvest, so I just don't think it's a healthy thing to use for milk. And, I think our kids, your child best, so you might be able to go cold turkey on everything, or you might do gradual steps. I think gradual steps is easier for us as parents. And if you're cleaning out your pantry, maybe you identify those things that you want to get rid of, and each time you go to the store, maybe you replace it 2 different items or 3 different items. It depends on how much you have to replace and how far you have to go. We love a good granola bar here. What's the best alternative to the texture of Nature Valley, please? You could actually make your own granola. You can get gluten-free organic oats. You can get different nuts and seeds. So there's hemp seeds, chia seeds, and both of those have really good fatty acids, really good fats for the brain. There's pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds. You can throw almonds in there, or you can, do a rough mix in a food processor, and then you can stick those together with either peanut butter, almond butter, maybe a little honey. You can drizzle a little chocolate on top. As far as purchasing, I used to like the macro bars, but that's not the same consistency. They're pretty high sugar though, and I haven't found a really good one that I love. Commercially, and I keep looking. A lot of them have really high sugars in them. Oh, the other thing you can put in if you make homemade granola is you can put in dates, and that's something you'd want to mix up in the food processor, and raisins. So that's going to have natural sugar, but not a fast glucose that enters the body. It's the body will handle it a little bit better, I feel. Let me think if there's any other kind of granola. I tend to stay away from high carbohydrate things because my body doesn't need carbohydrates, but our kids do. And that's why I say like nuts and seeds combo. I've even bought granola, like a granola cereal in the bar, granola cereal in the store. I think Trader Joe's has it. And it's a no-grain granola. And when I look at the ingredients, I'm like, gosh, I have all those nuts and seeds at home. I can just make my own. So that's what I do, minus the sugar. So when you make it yourself, you control the amount of sugar and carbohydrates that go in there. All right. Good questions. Thanks for asking. If I find a good granola bar, who are, all the handles are not your real names, probably Laura Dahl. If I find a good one, I can definitely post it back here on Instagram, but I don't have high hopes for a lot of processed food. I was saying that earlier, in case you weren't on, is that our food system is set up for us to fail as humans, to fail nutritionally. And what I was saying is to stop as much processed food as possible and eat food in its natural state. So as I mentioned for the granola bar, the seeds and the nuts, those are whole foods in and of themselves and pretty healthy. Avocado, fruits, vegetables, and clean meat. So, and also if you guys are going to use oils, I've talked about this before, coconut oil, olive oil, butter or ghee, depending if you do dairy. These are good oils to use. Also, animal fat is pretty good, but I've heard, I don't use these, but I've heard that duck fat, duck lard, goose fat, tallow, fat from beef is also good to cook in if you get that and if you're oriented towards that, because it's got fats that are good for our body. The ones to avoid are canola oil, soy oil, vegetable oil, as much as possible sunflower and safflower, and that's what most of our snacks are fried in. If you get potato chips or any fried snack, crunchy snack in a bag, it's usually got those oils in it. So the more we give that, the more we don't need that much of that kind of fat. And so I recommend to stop all of those. And, if you go out to a restaurant and eat, or if you do a carry out, almost always you're going to get those bad fats. So I encourage you to cook at home, use good fats. And as I mentioned earlier, I have a couple recipes that I'm going to either put in the comments of this reel, or put as a link in bio. I have a recipe for chicken nuggets, French fries, which a lot of our kids have and love, and wholesome way to do it. And then I mentioned also your homemade freezer pops. So we'll give you that information too in the reel. Thank you everyone for being here. So glad you joined in, and you can always rewatch this as a reel. I'm Luminara Serdar from Autism Transformed, and happy 4th of July.